Let's now talk about the rising problem of stray dog menace, cases of which have been reported from across the country. In fact, just recently, a little girl from Hubballi in Karnataka was dragged and was assaulted by two stray dogs, and she was later on rescued by onlookers. Similar incidents also happened in other districts of Karnataka. Kerala too is battling the same problem. We in Delhi have seen similar cases as well. What really leads to aggression in stray dogs, and also what is the government, what is the administration doing about this? Remember, the ABC, the animal birth control, is the sole responsibility of civic bodies. Why is that not being done? And most importantly, is there a solution to this? And while this has become a fight between dog lovers and people who are raising this issue, it really is much more than that, and we need to look for solutions here, specifically on fixing accountability and also, most importantly, protecting the elderly and children who have been victims in most cases here, Veera.
That's right, Vasudha, but remember, this instant debate has been triggered off by that Supreme Court observation on feed them at home, why feed them in the streets. There are multiple dimensions to this, and it's not just about feeding the dogs. There are hundreds of resident groups across India that are working to ensure stray dogs are vaccinated, and there are systems in place. A bench of Justices Vikram Nath and Sandeep Mehta told the petitioners in that case that they are hearing that we should leave every lane, every road open for these large-hearted people with a question mark. There is all space for these animals, no space for humans. Why don't you feed them in your own house? That was the question posed by the apex court. Joining us, Vasudha and I this evening, Congress MP from Shivaganga, Karthi Chidambaram, who has spearheaded this issue doggedly, if I may say so. Karthi, this is not a laughing issue at all. It is really one which has multiple dimensions in a country that's getting highly urbanized. What are the key concerns from a national policy point of view on this issue, and is it being taken seriously?
This is not a laughing matter. This is a very serious issue. It's a real issue which is occurring every single day in every nook and corner of India, not just in urban India, but also in rural India. The number of stray dogs in our streets is increasing, disproportionately, and we have no policy. Neither do we have the resources or the wherewithal to deal with this. I mean, local bodies are supposed to deal with it, and local bodies in most cases do not have the funds and don't have the expertise to deal with it. And they are all straddled with an antiquated ABC policy, the animal birth control policy, which they can't implement. Because in order to implement the animal birth control policy, you must capture the female dogs, and then you must perform the surgery and keep them in a safe place for 5 days, then let them back on street. But that is a failed policy. There is no infrastructure to do that. And secondly, no developed country has got a stray and a street dog, street and stray cattle problem. We can't be aspiring to be a global power. We can't be aspiring to be one of the top economies in the world. We can't be aspiring to command respect in the world. And we can't be aspiring to have a great number of tourists come into the country when we have a stray dog problem. It's not just about India's image. It's a health and safety issue. I mean, the number of people who are getting bitten by stray dogs is a lot every single day. The numbers are staggering. And the number of rabies deaths, we have the highest number of rabies deaths in India. So what we really need to sort this out is not localized solutions, because the local bodies won't come up with any solutions. They are completely, short of funds. We need a national policy, an ethical policy, and humane policy by which we need to build, dog shelters, which has to be funded either through whichever branch of the government. And dogs must be removed from the streets and sent to these centers. They must be housed there. And then they must be neutered and sterilized there. And if people feel strongly for them, they should adopt them. Dogs are not meant to roam. They are not meant to be in a free roaming state in the streets. In no developed country do we find this. So while we have to deal with this in a very humane manner, we must also deal with it in a systematic manner. And people who want to adopt them must be encouraged to adopt them. There should be no dog which is roaming in the streets. There should be no dog which does not have a collar. There should be no dog which is not sterilized, and which is no dog which is not vaccinated. That has to happen. And if people feel very strongly about it, they should adopt them. And this business of keeping dogs in a free roaming state in the streets is completely unacceptable, and it's a health and safety hazard, and nobody takes responsibility for this. I've been voicing this as much as I possibly can.
Right, Karthi, so that's a very comprehensive solution that you've recommended. But what really triggered you to take up this issue? Was there a personal matter? Because I remember meeting you in the parliament. You, in fact, also met the Prime Minister and spoke about this.
First of all, I like dogs very much. I myself have dogs at home and they're very dear to me. But the point is, I find that there are ease of living urban issues which nobody highlights. So I like to pick on issues which does not necessarily constitute a vote bank. That is why I speak about gig workers. That is why I speak about online education. That is why I speak about gold loans. That is why I speak about KYC. That is why I speak about street dogs. Because I tend to pick on issues which affect common people, but who don't constitute a group and who become an effective vote bank. I'd like to speak for a large number of people who are not organized vote banks.
Karthi, on the one side is this, there are multiple dimensions to the problem that we are speaking in terms of dog menace. One is dealing with it in a humane manner, but often we find strong fights, arguments, may I say barking in gated communities, between neighbors, and in residential colonies over this. Have we really failed to take this seriously, as seriously it should be?
It seriously at all, because the people who are affected are the people who walk to work, who walk from school, and not the people in cars, not people who live in gated communities with high security walls. It's the people on the streets, in villages, in towns, and in the gullies and in the narrow streets of our country. That's where they're affected the most. And the behavior of these dogs is also changing because they are in packs now. They also behave very differently and much more aggressively. And every day we are hearing cases of people getting bitten. Even in my own constituency, one part of my constituency is part of Pudukkottai district. Even there, you would see on a monthly basis a staggering amount. The Tamil Nadu government has put out the numbers. It's lakhs of people are getting bitten by dogs every day, and then people. There is a lack of rabies by vaccine, and some PHCs is leading to deaths. Expiry of rabies vaccines is leading to death. We are the largest importer of rabies vaccines in the world. We have the maximum number of rabies deaths. So we don't. See, you can't football this. You see, what happens in Delhi is the Animal Husbandry Ministry does not take responsibility for this. The Health Ministry does not take responsibility for it, because nobody is responsible for this problem.
Right.
And that is why I took it up to the Prime Minister. I urged the Prime Minister to form a national task force which will lay out the procedure to deal with this. And the way is, you must build shelters, remove the dogs, house them humanely, you neuter them or sterilize them, and encourage people to adopt them and keep them in their private homes with collars and with the proper papers and certificates. You can't have dogs in a free roaming state in the streets of India.
Thanks very much, Karthi Chidambaram from Shivaganga, for, may I say, doggedly making those points here on the Southern View.
No pun intended in the dogged, I guess.
No pun intended at all. That's Karthi Chidambaram there. Vasudha, it's actually a far more serious issue than one considers. Not one for, casual conversation, one that needs serious thinking.
Absolutely, Veera. Let's also listen into what Nupur Dogra, our colleague, reported from the Supreme Court today on that very important observations that were made by the top court.
The Supreme Court yesterday, while hearing a petition by a woman who faced harassment over feeding stray dogs, has made some remarks, made some important observations. The Supreme Court asked, should the streets be left for these large-hearted people who want to feed dogs? Should all streets be left for them? Is there no place for humans? What about those? Supreme Court expressed concerns about those cycling and walking and facing and the rising stray dog attacks on humans. So this is a dilemma that the country is facing now. Existing laws, including previous Supreme Court judgments, say that under the current ABC rules, it is the authorities, local bodies like MCD, who are, and in fact RWAs of society, who are responsible for taking care of dogs, making sure they're neutered, sterilized, and creating separate feeding areas for them so that there is no conflict, to avoid conflict between humans and dogs. We have some locals here who live in this colony which has number of stray dogs, and let's ask them that what they think about the Supreme Court's observation and what they think should be done. We see that you yourself are a pet owner. Tell us, what do you think about Supreme Court's observations?
See, being a dog lover, having a large heart for dogs is not the problem. Problem is failure of authorities, that they are not doing their job well. If they make separate feeding areas for dogs, sterilize them on time, and vaccinate them. So I don't think it's a big problem, and we have to worry about the aggression from dogs.
Now let's ask someone else. Ritvik, you also stay in this colony. Tell us, what are your views on the street dogs, and what do you think should be done?
Sometimes I have this fear when I'm walking past through a dog that he will bite me or ये मुझे काट लेगा. But at times I think it depends on person to person and people to people. I have this fear in me that ये मुझे काटेगा या कुछ ऐसा होगा. I think authorities should take a step ahead in this, and they should create awareness amongst the people that ऐसा करो ऐसा मत करो, that you should feed them properly, how you should treat them.
Well, thank you, Nupur, for joining us with those insights. There's also very strong observations made by the top court here, Veera. But comprehensive solutions have been described, have been recommended even in the past. But it really, probably will take for a lot of collaboration between civic bodies, state governments to get this through. To talk about this, we have Priya Chetty Rajagopal, who's the co-founder of Citizens for Bengaluru. We have Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, who's the chairman of Nephron Clinics, and we also have Harja Sethi, who is a social media influencer. Thank you all of you for joining us on this broadcast. Mr. Sethi, as a digital influencer, as a social media influencer, how do you see this issue being reduced to a fight between just dog lovers and people who want, some systemic procedures so that stray dogs don't really harm human beings? I see a lot of videos on Insta, of dog feeders, of these fights. How do you see this phenomenon growing in the last few years, and what do you think? Where do you think the solution lies?
Hi, thank you. So, as someone who's been working in the animal welfare community for almost a decade now, I think it's the need of the hour now that we come together as a community. This is not the time to do us versus them. It's not the time to do dog lovers versus dog haters, or people who don't have special consideration for dogs. I understand not everybody is a dog lover. However, there's a need for compassion, and of course we are fundamentally bound as per our constitution. Everybody has a right to live. So I think the solution is not to throw the dogs out or to harass the feeders. In fact, I think dog feeders, the animal welfare community, the MCG, the authorities, the RWAs, everybody
Right.
needs to work together and find a solution. We need to follow the ABC rules and AWBI guidelines.
Right.
So we need to have dedicated feeding spots. We need to have their sterilizations going on, so that in the next 7, 8, 10, 15 years, the dog population reduces. Because I understand that fear. That fear can be a valid fear for a lot of us. However, that fear should not let
As
us
you,
do something illegal or violate the rights
okay.
of another being that we coexist with. Yes, I think
Oh,
someone has
absolutely. You're making an important point. But the fact is, Priya Chetty Rajagopal, you've been working for years on this issue. There is another element to this in terms of human safety. And when it's come to a situation where human safety has become a matter of very serious concern, when children can get mauled, and then, there are those who use this one of saying that, look, I'm a dog lover, I have to do this way. There has to be some balance here, right, Priya?
Yes, I believe so. I think one of the things that we've been branded with, when we are concerned about the area of animal welfare, and we demonstrate that through, programs or campaigns or activity, is that there's an either or solution, which is very simplistic, which is you either like dogs or you like humans. And I think that is where some of the biggest problems lie. As you know, the law is the law. We have, however much it might be reviled, brought down, we have a law which says no culling, no relocation. So it's like today saying, when the red light comes up, you stop your car. So you follow the law. So let's assume this is a law that we have to work within. And we have, at the same time, a very high population of street or stray dogs in the country. Bangalore alone has about 3 lakh dogs. But there's also a lot of good stuff which is happening. So if you look at the broad structure that this is a situation, this is the law, people like us or people who are trying to form communities are actually engaging and addressing the human demographic even more than we are addressing the dog population. So if you look at the demographic of feeders, the assumption is I'm feeding my soul by feeding a dog. I don't think that is it. What we need to understand is when there are feeders, there are three things that happen. The first is ferocity comes down, access to the dog is increased, and therefore they can be neutered and vaccinated. And continued feeding also makes sure that the dog is quiet and safe. And you can please go to many of the areas that we have responsible feeders and responsible feeding. You will find the dogs are very placid, they're quite well behaved, they're sitting in their own space, minding their own business. And the neuter vaccination is very high. Recently, in one of our squads, which is the Ulster squad, we vaccinated 304 dogs within a week. So that's because the feeders have a good relationship, they can get it done. And why do we vaccinate? We're vaccinating to keep the human population safe. So the focus and the viewpoint has to change. There is
Take the question to Dr.
and I
Bagai.
cannot blame
Dr. Bagai, as somebody who's also worked in the dog space, how do you look at Dr. Priya's suggestions? I completely agree with her. We need a community approach to this problem. But when I also see the deaths there, of little children being attacked or elderly people being attacked, that there's a lot of, we all become very furious. There's a lot of anger also as to why this issue is not being resolved. How much time do you think that this community approach will get sort of internalized, and do you think that this will work in a country like India?
Good evening. I think we need to address statistics first. We have approximately 6.2 crores, which is about 62 million stray dogs in India. The incidence of dog bites is about 17.5 per million. We've had 23 lakh animal bites last year, which amounts to 6,000 bites per day, which is almost 6 dog bites per minute. We have a 99% case fatality with rabies and almost 70 to 80% complications with tetanus. 35% of worldwide rabies is in India. We are losing 25,000 patients or citizens every year, out of which a vast majority are children under the age group of 5. They get mauled, they get mutilated. There is a risk of bacterial infections, of course, viral infections, tetanus, rabies itself, which has no cure. And elderlies, they fall, they have fracture neck femur or a head and neck or a head injury. These are complications which we are seeing every day. I request everyone to understand the pain and the suffering of the patient and the difficulty of the medical team. I personally have worked in rabies wards. It's the most frustrating and emotionally challenging phase of our medical training. We lose human lives. Stray dogs cannot be living in the same habitat as human beings. For all the dog lovers who are in fantasy land who want to feed the dogs, take them in your own house. If you feed them outside your house and put them again on the road, they're going to bite other people. Each dog produces at an average of about 18 to 20 puppies a year. The population is only multiplying and more people are going to have injuries and infections and death.
Okay, you're making a very, very strong point there, Vasudha. There's a multiple dimensions to this debate. Of course, Priya has been working on it extensively in Bengaluru. I guess the need is for a large, overwhelmed, complete national policy as far as stray dogs is concerned. One that's humane to both human beings and to stray dogs.
Is that a question?
Was that to me?
Absolutely, Veera. And I think we need not just a humanitarian approach to this, but also a scientific approach to this. Yeah, I think I was saying that, not only do we need a humanitarian approach to this, but also a scientific approach to this and more of accountability so that we work in a community-centric way, like Priya said. And also, like Dr. Bagai said, we don't forget the statistics and numbers, because nothing can happen at the cost of human lives. So that, Veera, it's a wrap on the show, and we will see our viewers tomorrow, same time.